Now, step one is to get the drain plug. You don't need to buy a new one every time. You just need to buy these gaskets, rubber gaskets, and when you're doing your oil change, just take off the old gasket and put on the new one. So that's the first stage. Right, next stage is to jack it up, and I'd recommend you use a low profile trolley, 3 ton minimum. Get your 2 jacks there, and they're 3 ton each minimum. So keep those 2 under the chassis secure, and obviously keep this up as well for safety. Now, I've just purchased a new creeper as well, so that's been going well so far. And here we have our drain sump bucket. To remove the crash plate, which is a bit heavy, so just be careful with it, you will need a 13mm socket and a breaker bar. Now, the last nut to take out are the front 2 on the crash plate. So what you do is, what the technique I use is, I just use my knees to support the crash plate, and then take out the last 2 nuts, like so, and then simply lower it down onto the legs, and then come out, just like that. You're going to use the same 13mm socket to loosen the drain plug, and then just have your pan underneath and let it drain out. Now, using a breaker bar and a 32mm socket, loosen the oil filter like so. Then use an ordinary wrench to loosen after that. While the engine oil is draining away and the sump is open, change the actual air filter, engine air filter. You need a Phillips screwdriver and just work your way through. Using an 8mm socket, I also remove the mass airflow sensor and give it a bit of a clean. Let me just get that in focus there. Get in focus, yeah. So there we are, just take it off, loosen the actual Jubilee clip as well. To take off the mass airflow sensor from here, let me see there now, let's connect it on here. You will need to just squeeze at the bottom. Now, it can be a bit tight. There, you can see it moving in and out there. So just be patient with that. Squeeze at the bottom. Sometimes we can get mixed up and forget squeezing at the top. No, you squeeze at the bottom and then gently prise down. And when you're removing the mass airflow sensor, you will need to turn it anti-clockwise and just gently prise it away. So this is a mass airflow sensor cleaner, and it's just a simple case of going in and give it a good clean. And I'm doing this now at one hand, so it's not the best, but you get the idea. Just clean that mass airflow sensor, and that should enhance the fuel efficiency and performance of the engine as well. You're putting in the new air filter. Just make sure that it's nice and snug all the way around. That's important. You'll feel it just slot in, just like that. And it's also the same with the case of the air filter. Just make sure it's nice and snug. Give it a bit of a, gently shake it into place. See that all the corners are nice and snug, as I said. I'm using that word a bit too often, but you know what I mean. It's very important, because if there is a bit of a gap, then obviously there's going to be dirty air getting into the engine, and you don't want that. So we have the new air filter put back in, the engine air filter. We've tightened up the mass airflow sensor. We've connected back on the connector onto the mass airflow sensor. We've tightened up the Jubilee to the air intake, And what I forgot to tell you is that there's another bolt here, another nut here, or screw that we need to remove in order to remove this section to prise out the mass airflow filter. So that's that done. So the next stage is to lower down the beast and put back on the sump. I'll put back on the engine oil sump nut first, and then put on the breaker plate and lower it down, and then put in the engine filter. Now you're going to need to tighten the sump to 25 Newton meters. Do that now. To put back on the crash plate, just rest the crash plate on your knees, and preferably if you have a crawler or creeper, that makes it all the more easier. Then you're going to put on the first 2 front nuts onto it there, and once they're in, just use your fingers first to put in for the first few turns, and then lift up and follow through with the rest on either side and work your way down. That's the technique that I use. So the crash plate is back on, and all the nuts are tightened to 25 Newton meters, just the same as the oil sump. And that's basically it. So now let's just remove the 2 jacks, and let's put in the oil filter and the new oil. Now I'm just putting in the new filter for the engine oil filter. And I don't know if you can see there, but at about approximately 7 o'clock, excuse now the lack of focus, at about approximately 8 o'clock there is a slot in there where you put the nipple there. So you just put it around and slot it in, and you'll hear it click into place. So there we are, that's the engine oil filter gone in. Now when you're replacing the gasket, the rubber gasket seal around the engine oil filter, just make sure that it's not distorted. And if it is, usually it is when you put it on first. Well, first things what you're going to do is you're just going to smear it with oil from inside. Just take some oil and put it on your fingers and smear it all around. And if it's kinked, if it's, as I said, if it's twisted, just get a screwdriver or your ordinary screwdriver, just put it up underneath the actual the seal, and then run it around. Just move the seal and move the actual the screwdriver around 360 degrees, and it will remove any of those distortions. So you don't want any kink, shall we say, in that. You're going to tighten the oil filter, engine oil filter, 25 Newton meters. There we go, not too tight as it'll destroy the actual sump, and you might have to pay for a new one. And that is basically it. So that is the engine oil filter replaced. Next up is filling the actual engine with the new oil. For Discovery 3 2005, it takes 5.45 litres of oil. Now that's for a refill. I'm using Magnatec 5W30 Castrol, and I'm also using some secret sauce which I haven't got today, but I'll put it in tomorrow. So I'm going to put in the 5 litres here, and I will just calculate the rest then in terms of the additive tomorrow. So I've put in 5 litres of oil, and I just have a little plastic bag with a hole in it so that it doesn't dribble around the engine, just trying to keep it slightly clean. Now for the remainder 450 mils or 0.45 of a litre, I'm putting in 250 mils of ZX1, my additive, and then I'm putting in 200 mils on top of that of my Castrol Magnatec oil, which will make a total of 450 mils. Now if you're not adding in a additive, you're just going to pour in 450 mils of engine oil. Now while I'm here, I tend to clean the engine sensor as well, which is here. And let me just see there now if I can get it in. So there we are. That's it there, the engine sensor. I'm using a T25, I think it is, T25 or thereabouts. Those special torque wrenches, I think they are. And that's basically it, so just remove that and clean it. So there we are, here is the sensor, and I'm going to clean this part here with the mass airflow sensor spray cleaning. And to remove it, it's the same as before. You're just going to clip down here and pull it out. It's fairly straightforward. And give it a good clean there. So again, this is to basically again enhance the efficiency of the engine and so forth, to take in the various measurements of oxygen and fuel, etc. So this is the secret sauce. ZX1, the ultimate ball breaker, ball eliminator, or friction, whatever you want to call it. So you just pour it in and just let it drain there. Absolutely fantastic stuff. So after putting in the ZX1, I'm up to 36.9 37 and thereabouts miles per gallon. That's gone from 30, there we go, 37, and that was, before I put in the ZX1, that was around 32, 33 Yippee. Miles per gallon. Yippee.